Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating, massive shift in global organizing powers. We're living through a truly unique moment in history, and we are going to reveal why your proactive, sweating human intent is quite literally the only thing that can tame the chaos of modern artificial intelligence. It's a deep dive into how society is completely reorganizing itself, and more importantly, what your role is going to be as an author of that future. Here is our roadmap for today. We're covering 1. The new Leviathan, 2. Algorithmic distortion, 3. Wielding the divine script, 4. Human protortion, and 5. The one commandment. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The new Leviathan.
So, to really grasp where we're headed, we have to look back at the Leviathans. You know, those supreme forces that organize human behavior on a massive scale. Back in the 1800s, people mostly behaved out of a literal fear of God. That was the ultimate enforcer of social norms. Fast forward to the 1900s, societies secularized, and that authority shifted to the nation-state. You followed the rules because the government would punish you if you didn't. But today, well, both of those traditional authorities are fading out. The network is rapidly taking over as the ultimate social enforcer, literally stepping up as the successor to both God and the state.
And we're actually seeing real-world data backing up this decline in traditional state loyalty. Take Canada and the US, for example. Historically, they've had one of the tightest alliances on the planet, but lately, that unshakable faith Canadians had in their southern neighbor has really started to fracture, largely driven by political rhetoric and trade hostilities.
To put that in perspective, recent polling shows Canadian favorability toward the US has absolutely cratered, down to just 33%. Almost 70% of Canadians actually think they should treat the US with caution or even as a potential threat. Wow. It's a massive real-world example of how national borders and traditional loyalties are just dissolving. And that leaves a giant vacuum for the global network to fill.
Okay, Section 2, Algorithmic Distortion.
Now, as we dive headfirst into this network era, which is heavily reliant on artificial intelligence, we run into a massive technological wall. If you just surrender your ideas and execution to the machine, you get what the sources call algorithmic distortion. Basically, this is the mathematical degradation that happens when an AI tries to statistically guess what you actually want. It creates this unpredictable fog, an automated miasma where your original vision just gets lost in random chaos.
The thing to remember here is that you absolutely cannot rely on an AI's probabilistic guessing for anything high stakes. When you take our fluid, complex human thoughts and squeeze them through what's called a tokenization bottleneck, which is just a fancy way of saying how AI chops our language down into math, it's like putting your intent through a wood chipper. The machine doesn't actually understand a word you're saying. It's literally just guessing based on statistics.
Which brings us to Section 3, Wielding the Divine Script.
So how do you survive this automated chaos? You have to take command of what's known as the semiotic bridge. Think of it as a 3-step ladder down from your mind to the actual metal. First, you've got your messy, abstract human intent. Step 2, you formalize that intent into strict, rigid code like JSON or Python. That's the divine script. And then Step 3, that explicit text triggers flawless physical action on the silicon hardware itself, the ALU or arithmetic logic unit.
I absolutely love this quote because it perfectly captures how absurd computing actually is. We are quite literally tricking rocks into thinking using lightning and text. I mean, how wild is that? There is no magic ghost in the machine. It's completely blind to the real world. It is 100% up to you, the human pilot, to use that deterministic text to bend the unyielding hardware to your will.
And that sets up the ultimate battle of wills for our modern era. In one corner, you've got algorithmic distortion, just chaotic, probabilistic guesswork from the machine. In the other corner, you have the rigid, deterministic control of the sovereign human pilot. So, how do we make sure our intent wins out and doesn't get swallowed up by the machine's guesswork?
That's exactly what we cover in Section 4, Human Protortion.
To win this fight, you've got to bring your own physical and mental horsepower to the table. This proactive effort is called protortion. It's the total opposite of just passively clicking generate and crossing your fingers. Protortion means you are aggressively pruning the AI's wild outputs, constantly refining your scripts, and literally forcing truth back into the system by relentlessly, manually steering the ship.
Because AI has absolutely zero agency of its own. Legal frameworks are actually bringing back this old concept called the sweat of the brow doctrine. Your relentless manual steering, your literal sweat record, meaning the actual physical calories you burn adjusting and correcting the machine, is becoming the ultimate proxy for true human authorship in the AI age. It's the only mathematical proof that a living, breathing human was actually at the wheel. Pretty incredible, right?
Moving on to our final piece, Section 5, the One Commandment.
When individuals take this kind of proactive, sweaty intent and scale it way up to the macro level, something amazing happens. They start forming entirely new network societies. It's a lot like a tech startup. To succeed, you need a singular, obsessive focus. For a new opt-in network state, that's called a One Commandment. It's a deeply researched core moral code that unites its citizens and gives them a real, focused alternative to that broad, failing, traditional state we talked about earlier. What's fascinating is just how simple these premises start. You take one moral idea and push it to its absolute extreme, like saying 24/7 internet is bad to build a digital Sabbath society, or simply carbs are bad to form a keto kosher society. By doing this, groups of humans can parallelize their efforts. They can peacefully build these highly focused, opt-in communities that completely reshape their reality, all driven by pure human intent across the network.
So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. As this network Leviathan grows and the tools we use get increasingly automated and chaotic, what is your role going to be? Are you going to be a passive moral crumple zone, just soaking up the liability of the machine's unpredictable guesswork? Or will you roll up your sleeves, embrace the sweat of the brow, and step up to wield the divine script as the sovereign author of your own future? The choice is entirely up to you. Keep questioning the systems that run our world, and I'll catch you next time.